NiKo was one of the voices speaking out against CS2 and the state it was in on release.
I also remember a NiKo tweet just a couple of days, right? Like he wrote CS2 is shit, and then all of a sudden Kisarazu 2 days before that wrote that it was the best game that has ever been released since 1.6, right?
Now, it's sort of unreasonable to expect that if you really don't like something, you're gonna be really good at it. But this is NiKo we're talking about. A player who carved out his spot at the very top of Counter-Strike without the help of the game's star-making gun. A contender who was knocked down countless times only to come back stronger. If anyone could conquer the demons of his past and overcome the challenges of a new game, surely it was NiKo.
I would love for him to have a big event in the arena because CS needs NiKo and NiKo needs CS, right? So having a good runoff in the major would be a nice look for G2.
And yet, the Copenhagen Major saw a rather shaky G2 contend with teams new and old who had just as much to prove on Counter-Strike's biggest stage.
If G2 did it, I would be very surprised if G2 did it. It's not been the most convincing Counter-Strike coming out of them over the elimination stage.
G2 struggled through an underwhelming group stage, taking losses to C9 and Na'Vi, which didn't bode well for their future results. G2 silenced some of their doubters by swiftly and brutally dominating MOUZ in the quarterfinals. Then again, there were those who claimed that G2 might have lost that matchup had there not been a disruption in the arena midway through Game 2.
There was a small disruption, but the security staff and PGL have done their job. And all I want to do right now is focus on the Counter-Strike!
To play to the finals like his brother before him. And with that SMG, 4 kills to his name, he is cut down.
Wow.
And just like that, they've managed. Divine intervention ushers them into the playoffs, and the soldiers of God march on.
Still, riding high on the victory, G2 looked strong going into their semi-finals face-off against Na'Vi. And yet Map 1 narrowly slipped through their fingers in OT.
The stage built for him, under the lights, in front of 16,000 fans. Wonderful, doing G2 dirty. With 15 seconds to play with, he walks into the site, he finds the triple kill, and he sends G2 down.
But G2 rallied, bouncing back with a far more decisive response on Nuke.
He's got an angle around that, and set for success. m0NESY collects onto JL, they're starting to run him down, he chooses to re-peek, he's fighting! Oh, m0NESY stands his ground gloriously. In a 2v5 situation, will Wonderful find anything more? He's alone now, 1v5, and one bullet will do it! G2 should just be able to put this one in. It's only Wonderful, and there it is! A third map required!
Now, everything was on the line on Ancient. NiKo's chance to leave his mark on the new game, to secure his legacy, his trophy, but it wasn't meant to be.
It's gonna be JL a bit! m0NESY, what have you got? Misses his first, getting overrun! It looks like G2's time here in Copenhagen is over as JL racks up another 28 frags and counting. Hunter caught out, it's all on Nexa. Na'Vi pulled into the grand finals. One more kill. Wonderful gets it. Sometimes your opponent's just having a really good day.
Na'Vi edged it out in Map 3, leaving G2 in shambles as the underdogs pushed through to eventually win the whole tournament.
And they know it now. They all know it now. The best moment of the rest of their lives is about to come through. And there's the killing blow.
It wasn't that NiKo's stats weren't there exactly. He might not have been the top performing player on G2, but he was second only to m0NESY, who was literally the best player at the entire event. The first CS2 major was brimming with fresh new talent like m0NESY, but some of the CS old-timers still stepped up and found new ways to make a huge impact on the tournament. Which brings us to the elephant in the room. Why is it that NiKo is never the bride, always the bridesmaid? How is it possible that the universally acknowledged best rifler in the game, the player with stats that should have netted him multiple majors, is still waiting to lift the big one? Stats may not tell the whole story. People have attributed things outside of the server to NiKo's lack of a major trophy, like his famously volatile temper.
Shut up! Yeah, then say that you're smoked up. Shut up!
Shut up. Oh yeah. Is that
Sports? This is some old school. I mean,
is that NiKo shouting at?
Yeah, this is how it can get on well, both of these teams actually
Yeah.
have a history of, like, you know, getting a bit heated in the game.
Even though NiKo's performances earned him a reputation as a game-changing talent, there are some that think his reputation off the server has been holding him back. And while he was known to have a strong personality ever since he first got into the big leagues, things really came to a head when he took over IGLing FaZe Clan in 2018 after Kerrigan left the team. Shortly before Kerrigan's departure, when NiKo took over the IGL role on what was supposed to be a temporary basis, he told HLTV, "I took it over just to come up with something fresh in the team, to build some confidence in the team, which we were lacking at the start, so people start believing in something." But was NiKo the voice of the team, or was he speaking for himself? Did he take over a role he admittedly disliked because he was sure that his way was just better? How far did NiKo's influence on his teams actually extend? The rumor mill got so out of control that towards the end of NiKo's time with FaZe, he took to Twitter to finally address the persistent sentiment that he had gotten Kerrigan kicked. Of course, it didn't help that another former teammate, Kiyoshima, jumped into the thread alleging that NiKo kicked him out of FaZe as well. Whatever the case may have been, NiKo moved on to supposedly bigger and better things just a short month later when he joined his cousin Hunter on G2. And a few years later, in Stockholm, NiKo lost the major in part thanks to the most devastating whiff in CS history.
It feels wrong in so many ways. It feels wrong for G2 in that moment because it felt like they really deserved that map. It feels wrong for NiKo because when does NiKo's aim fail him like that? And it almost kind of looked like it doesn't in the clip.
G2 began to shuffle, but the secret team manager narrative that has followed NiKo around for years was weaving itself into G2's every roster move. Following the departure of IGL Nexa, G2 brought in Alexi B as their new in-game leader, Munacy as a replacement for Amanek, and Xtaz as head coach. But after failing to produce any meaningful results with the team, Alexi was benched, and NiKo was, once again, at the center of the discussion around that decision.
Well, I guess we'll be needing a new IGL then.
Xtaz didn't stick around much longer, alleging he left G2 because he felt useless, prompting yet another conversation around who was actually in charge of the team. And then the team's lucky charm, JKS, was benched in favor of Nexa, a friend of NiKo's. Whether it was true or not, yet again, the general perception was that NiKo was the one behind the unpopular roster change.
They removed probably one of the world's most impactful support players in JKS, and plugged in Nexa, who was a familiar presence, you know, for those the teammates in G2. I don't know what to think of right now.
I think that Nexa as a replacement didn't quite make sense unless you were to give him in-game leadership roles. So now with Nexa and Hooksy, there's like I feel like you can have one but not the two.
So is all of this actually the reason that NiKo doesn't have a major trophy? Is it his supposed iron fist rule within his rosters? Believe what you will, but NiKo has publicly denied these claims on multiple occasions.
It's never me deciding who is out, who is in, who is leading, who is not. It's never been like that, so I just have as enough responsibility or as much responsibility as any other player on the team.
Maybe the reason for NiKo's unwritten legacy is his perceived arrogance.
It is ancient, so of course
I died to Kerrigan, he says.
The man has poked fun at himself plenty of times, so at the very least, he possesses a healthy dose of self-awareness.